So welcome back to the More Nick Ackerman channel, and today I'm going to talk about reasons why I think the Pixel 9 Pro XL beats the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Now I got these both in a case right here. I'll leave a link to both of these cases down below if you want to pick them up. These are just some clear cases, but these two phones are kind of similar in a few ways and pretty different in others. And I'm going to talk about why I think the 16 Pro Max is getting beat this year, surprisingly, by the Pixel. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take it out of the case just to showcase how nice this phone does look. You can see those stainless steel rails. And then Apple does have a cleaner look over here with the titanium. So they definitely have a different feel with that. But the first one is going to be the more comfortable aspect ratio. So the Pixel 9 Pro XL has a similarly sized screen. It's like a 0.1 inch smaller, but it feels more comfortable. And if you look at these head on, they basically look like the same size. But because it goes with a 20:9 aspect ratio, this phone actually feels easier to kind of use side to side. It's still big and cumbersome like the iPhone 16 Pro Max, but the Pro Max is really stretching it with that 19:5.9 across a 6.9 inch screen. So this is just something that's a little bit better. Also, with the 20:9 aspect ratio, when you are watching a video, you can see in video, the Pixel has a much smaller cutout here, just a little punch hole versus dynamic island. So when you zoom in, this is a little bit nicer. However, the iPhone does have a nice wide display. This one has a little bit more narrow, but looks slightly longer this way. Overall, they're both pretty similar, but that cutout is just much smaller. So I do prefer a smaller cutout when consuming content. So the next thing that the Pixel does better than the iPhone 16 Pro Max is the selfie camera. The selfie camera is a much higher megapixel count than this one over here. It's like 50 megapixels now. So they actually improved their selfie camera, which also means that the video quality on the front is going to be improved as well. Now, the iPhone has a pretty good selfie camera as well. It just seems like it's the same one they've been having for years, and it doesn't really look too much different. So I wish they would upgrade that selfie camera once and for all, like to the next level, like Pixel did. So definitely I prefer the selfie camera on the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. Next one is the Pixel finally has a brighter display than the iPhone, especially at peak brightness. It could hit 3000 nits. Unlike before, Pixels would never have really bright displays. This one still doesn't have the brightest typical nits, though. I feel like when I'm using it like this, I got to bring it way up to get that high brightness. But when you do get it outdoors, this one actually is brighter than the 16 Pro Max. So that's giving it another way. It beats the iPhone 16 Pro Max over there. The next area is a sharper pixel density. Now, this is not going to matter to a lot of people who are just using the phone casually, but if you do read a lot, I will say if I go over here to technology, a lot of people are talking about this SE. The text is just a little bit sharper than that of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Not by a lot, not anything a lot of people will notice, but I notice it because it's well over 50 or more pixels per inch. So the Pixel actually has a sharper resolution. That's just all there is to it. It's sharper resolution than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Next area that it's beating the iPhone 16 Pro Max is it has a larger physical battery in here, 5,000 plus milliamps. So this one actually might last longer in terms of longevity with the battery. So that's a really good thing. Now, I'm not saying it'll last longer throughout the day. I would have to do a proper test on that, but this has really good battery life, and it does have a larger physical size battery than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So I think over the long term, the Pixel 9 Pro XL might retain good battery life longer throughout its duration, whereas you might have to replace the 16 Pro Max's battery a little faster than this one over here. This is not really a Pixel specific feature, but since we're on the topic of comparison, I do want to say I like how this one just bypasses the lock screen when you are doing the face unlock. In addition, you can authenticate with that as well. You also have another way to unlock with the in-display fingerprint sensor. So I think the unlocking methods make this a little bit more nicer to use than this over here. You might like the Face ID a little more. This really depends on personal preference, but I do think that at least unlocking from the lock screen, it just feels like a faster experience to get in the phone because I don't have to swipe to get in. The Pixel 9 Pro XL is also beating the iPhone 16 Pro Max in areas of the cameras in that all the sensors are large 48 megapixel plus sensors. So every single sensor that you're taking a photo with on the Pixel is of high resolution. Over here, there's one of them that's 12 megapixels. I believe that's the telephoto lens. So they still need to upgrade that. on the 16 Pro Max. It's 48 on the main, 48 ultra wide, but still 12 on the telephoto. So the zooming might be a little sharper on the Pixel. They also do have the super res zoom where they use AI and stuff like that to make it process a little better. So I would say the rear cameras for photography might go to the Pixel depending on the type of photography you want to do. But I probably would still give the video to the iPhone. But I do like that every sensor on the back is a large sensor on the Pixel 9 Pro XL. The next area that the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL is beating the iPhone 16 Pro Max is that it is a cheaper price point. You're just going to get this for less money. And if you do a trade-in, you're going to get it for even less money than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. There's a con to that though. Your resale will also be less unless you trade it back to Google or to maybe a Samsung trade-in. But it's definitely a cheaper price to get into the phone. Although it doesn't hold its value as well, I still like that it's going to cost you less to get a phone that's nearly equally as nice as the current iPhone right here in the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. An area where I will always, until Apple brings this feature, say that Android is better, and this is not a Pixel specific, but we are comparing Pixel to iPhone here, is that they have a proper split screen mode. And I feel like Pixel is doing this in a way that Apple would probably implement this. They don't have all this extra stuff like Samsung you can add pop view and extra apps and all this extra stuff. They just give you a simple split screen here, double tap, and then you can go between the applications. They also kind of have that material look here on the corners. I'm not a major fan of this little black thing cutting into it, but it does look nice. I'll give them that. But having a proper split screen mode is definitely an advantage to the Pixel, just like it's an advantage to the other Samsung phones that I talk about by comparison to the 16 Pro Max. Next area where the Pixel is just simply better is the Google software. So we got the Play Store, we got Google News, we got Google Keep, all the Google stuff that you would want, the Google AI features, Pixel Studio, Gemini, screenshots, Lens, Translate, Maps, Chrome, the whole Google suite. They nail it with the software in terms of cloud-based computing. I will say, though, that the software on the iPhone is cool because you have Apple's software and then you could use Google stuff. But at the same time, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, but the Google software just doesn't run on all the apps as good. Certain few apps, though, weirdly are nicer on the iPhone from Google, but most of the suite just runs much faster, snappier. And that's why a lot of people, I don't think they get it with the Pixel experience. When they think about the G4 chipset and it not being the most powerful, it doesn't really matter because a lot of their apps are really, really well optimized. Because if you're using the Pixel, you're probably going to be using the G Suite. And most of the G Suite applications are incredibly snappy and fast on the Pixel because they were designed by Google for a Google Pixel. So all the Google apps just run buttery smooth on here, faster than other phones I've tried it next to. The next area is Gemini. And I have to tell you, this phone is just way smarter. With the Gemini experience, with the Pixel Studio is kind of like the Genmoji thing, similar to that. Or maybe like image generation. But the Gemini application, this thing is just amazing right here. It really is. It makes this phone so much smarter than the iPhone right now. It's unbelievable. The Siri, though, the new Siri is going to understand some context, but I still feel like in the AI arena, Google is still ahead. So honestly, the iPhone doesn't really truly feel that smart anymore to me by comparison to something like a Pixel. For sure. This phone just has an assistant like no other with Gemini. It's kind of like having ChatGPT, but a little bit more context awareness, all the time on your phone everywhere you go. So definitely have to give it kudos to that. It's just really on the next level with that. So I'll have to compare them more when Apple Intelligence comes, but I still think Google is in the lead. Something small, but I care about it. I like the wallpaper selection for the Pixel. I think it's much better. In addition, you have AI generation wallpapers on here. So the whole wallpaper experience is pretty great for what comes in the box with the Pixel here. And you can make your own AI-based wallpaper similar to what you could do on the S24 series, but just a whole bigger suite, and Apple only brings one or two. They are dynamic. They do change with dark light mode. So that is kind of nice. You see how it changed right there, kind of like a Mac. But at the same time, I do think that Google is leading in this department just because you have AI generation wallpaper. You also have circle to search, which is definitely a really neat feature, especially if you want to search anything on screen. Very cool. It would probably really make a lot of sense too when you're reading an article. For example, let's see if it can get this. We're going to want to learn more about the SE4. You'll see here some visual matches, products, and we'll talk a little bit more about the SE4. So the circle to search definitely leaps and bounds ahead of searching on the iPhone. I mean, if you like to do a lot of searching on the internet, the Pixel 9 Pro XL is the king. It really is. So the Pixel also has emergency SOS and crash detection as well now. So that's not really a lead in the iPhone department anymore either. So that's a really good, nice thing for the 16 Pro Max, but it's also here on the Pixel, and it doesn't really beat it there, but at least it has it. But one area it is beating it in is the RAM. This is doubling the RAM at 16 gigs. Now it's behind in the CPU, which kind of stinks, but at the same time, it doubles the RAM. So Apple's behind in the RAM at 8 gigs, but ahead in the CPU benchmarks. Pixel's behind in the benchmarks, but ahead in the RAM. So they kind of like trade there. Definitely. I think you'll feel the performance a little more with the faster CPU on the 16 Pro Max. But again, the experience is pretty well optimized. So I don't think I actually haven't ran into no massive stutters or issues with the Pixel 9 Pro XL at all. So even though it hasn't have the best CPU on the market, it's still performing okay. Although I still want to see them do a little bit faster chipset. So at the end of the day, those are my reasons why the Pixel 9 Pro XL is beating the 16 Pro Max. And you can see there's many of them. So Apple still has some work to do if they want to stay on top of everybody. They do got some work to do because really the Pixel has caught up for sure. Look at the shape, look at the premium build, look at its own unique design. Camera bar looks amazing. This also looks a little bit dated. And I'm not trying to be biased towards the Pixel. I just think that they upgraded this to look a little nicer than how it used to look. Like it was like a straight bar on like the Pixel 7 series. It just looks nicer now, matches the material UI. I just want to see them change this up because we've seen it a while on the iPhone already. So that's how the Pixel 9 Pro XL beats the 16 Pro Max. And if you want to see maybe some ways how the 16 Pro Max beats the Pixel 9 Pro XL, let me know down below in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.